Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you were all having a great day. As always, this must be said, the opinions expressed in this video are my own and should not, under any circumstances, be taken as legal, tax, and or investment advice. As always, please make sure to do your own research. This is obviously going to be an opinion video, as these are solely my opinions of exactly what I think is going to happen in 2019 with Bitcoin. I'm going to go over a couple of things, briefly run through the things that we've actually had happening in 2018 to give you a better picture as to exactly what I think Bitcoin will become, or what will become of Bitcoin in the following year. Like I said, I'm going to touch on a couple of things and then we'll kind of move on from there. The first thing is obviously, I guess you can call it the money elephant in the room. We've had so many, since the price of Bitcoin and therefore other cryptocurrencies as well, have fallen throughout 2018. It's been a dramatic decline nonstop. We have seemingly seen an enormous amount of energy being pushed towards the cryptocurrency space. Even though this was announced last year in November of 2017, this has still been an ongoing thing where we have heard from the people from NASDAQ that they plan on introducing Bitcoin futures. As of now, because prices have gone down throughout 2018, it is now looking like, or so we have heard, that this is going to be launching in Q1 of 2019. That's within the first 3 months of the year. The amount of energy and the reason kind of why this video is being made, and it's also like a reminder just to everyone. I know morale has gotten pretty low across the cryptocurrency space simply because the prices have been going down. I cannot and will never tell you what to do with your own money. This is why this is my own opinion. I just tried to make sure that everyone has a clear understanding of exactly how cryptocurrency has changed, and specifically for this video, how Bitcoin has changed over the course of 2018, during the time where you would, or one would have assumed, that while prices have been going down, that we would have seen institutional investors, institutional meaning NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, big money people, moving away from the space. They have for some reason only gotten closer to it. Like, there has been no situation except for like a couple of people, like I don't want to say like bankers and stuff like that, but people who really may not have something in their brain that allows them to understand what cryptocurrencies are. These are the only people who have really come forward to say anything negative. On the flip side of it, as prices have continued to tumble during 2018, we've only had more, support, if you kind of want to call it that, from people from NASDAQ, from the New York Stock Exchange, talking about the future of what they think is going to happen. We've had things like Backed being launched, or this is also supposed to happen at the beginning of 2019 now. Backed, pretty much for those who are unaware, is an initiative by the New York Stock Exchange, or the Intercontinental Exchange, the people who actually own the New York Stock Exchange, who are going to be launching something. They're going to launch their own cryptocurrency trading platform with Bitcoin at the head of all of this, as well as something where they're launching something that is going to be able to be integrated into other stores and companies and stuff like that, so that people are actually able to pay in cryptocurrencies. And I mentioned this before. I said I thought it was very interesting, and a lot of people aren't paying attention. First of all, the fact that the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ are trying to get into Bitcoin, even if it was just Bitcoin and not the entirety of the cryptocurrency space, should let a lot of people know exactly what the future of cryptocurrencies, or even just Bitcoin, is going to be, simply because you don't enter a dying market. There's no way on this planet that these mega rich institutions are trying to get into a dying industry. Like, no one is going to throw, one can only assume that the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ have at this point at least been throwing billions of dollars towards cryptocurrencies and building up infrastructure to launch these things just to see it die and fizzle. That's kind of the nicest way of saying it. Someone a couple of days ago was asking me where I saw this or where I heard this from, because I mentioned it in another video, and I guess they thought I was maybe pulling something out of a hat. The owner of the New York Stock Exchange / ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, announced, this was in August of this year, that he believes that Bitcoin could actually be the first worldwide currency. And I told you guys a couple of days after that, I said I was very interested as to why the prices actually fell a day or two after that. For a bit of context, the New York Stock Exchange, they deal with, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, potentially even trillions of dollars, depending on how far or deep you go into the securities, bonds, derivatives market. trillions of dollars. Let's say that as like a casual number. I know most people don't throw around the T word a lot. The fact that the owner of that has stated that he thinks that a cryptocurrency that's 10 years old could be the first worldwide currency is enough proof for me, myself, my own opinion, that Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency space are going to do extremely well in 2019. When you hear something like this, first of all, we had news a couple of months ago as well. I can't remember the exact, I want to say it was Fidelity, maybe. I can't remember the exact company or organization who announced that they had gotten into the cryptocurrency space and that they had actually been planning their foray into the cryptocurrency space since around 2014. And now they announced in 2018 that they were definitely in the space and that they had been doing this for the last 4 years. And I said, don't you think it's kind of interesting that this other platform, they're relatively well known, especially if you are into the world of finance. The fact that they had announced that they had gotten into cryptocurrencies 4 years ago, and that they're heavily into it right now, I said one can only assume that the New York Stock Exchange / the NASDAQ have definitely been in this space for at least as long as that. And it makes me wonder exactly how many Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies that they've been accumulating during this time period, especially when you say a sentence like, I think Bitcoin could be the first worldwide currency. It's safe to say that the New York Stock Exchange owns at least one Bitcoin. The way that traditional finance works, or rather the way that the very rich people work, if I can kind of say it that way, is that when you promote something and you say a sentence like this, they probably own a massive amount of Bitcoin that's actually floating around in the world. And to me, it's difficult to say sometimes, because I feel like when I say certain things, it feels like, like the whole like tinfoil hat thing, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, or you're thinking this certain way. This is as clear as it's really going to get. We know for a fact at this point that people in finance know each other, that these people all go to the same exact school. They all work together. They all have connections within each other. It's been my opinion for quite some time, especially when we had, New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ getting into the cryptocurrency space. This has probably been planned for quite a long time. I think them accumulating cryptocurrencies on the side has been probably something that a lot of people just haven't really been, I want to say, paying attention to. This is one of the factors why I believe that Bitcoin specifically for this video is going to be just destructively massive in what it ends up doing. I can only imagine the plans that they actually have for the next 3 years when it comes to Bitcoin, and exactly what they're going to do to the price. I mean, if you want to be as real or realistic as possible, it is easy to move markets when you hold a huge supply of something. We know that this year, a lot of the institutional investors have been buying up cryptocurrencies over the counter, or OTC, pretty much, where they're not hitting cryptocurrency exchanges. So we see the transactions happening on the blockchain, but we don't see the numbers passing through Coinbase. And it's probably safe to assume at this point that they've been gathering or collecting hundreds of millions, and I want to say that the B word, billions, under our noses as prices have been falling down. On top of this as well, touching on this very lightly, the Bakkt platform that is going to be launching, for those who haven't been paying attention during 2018, the ETF has been like a centerpiece of the cryptocurrency space. A lot of people have been waiting for the Bitcoin ETF to be launched, or to be allowed, or to be activated, or to be whatever from the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC. They have said no multiple times, and then the way that I made it in another video, and I said it before, I'm kind of perplexed that there's such a huge amount of energy around the Bitcoin ETF, especially this for me, this could have been dust the moment that the New York Stock Exchange announced that they were making Bakkt, that they were opening their own cryptocurrency trading platform. I don't really think there's much of a need, or that we need so much energy around a Bitcoin exchange traded fund when we have the New York Stock Exchange opening up a cryptocurrency trading platform to trade cryptocurrencies that is going to give access to at least 500 million people, if not 1.5 billion, the people who are estimated to be in finance around the entirety of the world, who are going to have access to the New York Stock Exchange's cryptocurrency trading platform. On top of that, with Bakkt as well, is the other thing that we have, where at least we know at the moment it's supposed to be the first two people that we know who have signed up are Microsoft and Starbucks, who have signed up, as far as we know. This is the information that we have for the Bakkt program, which is going to essentially allow them to be able to receive and or transact in cryptocurrencies. Why the market isn't completely crazy right now at the time of me making this video is still a major question in my head. I think the ETF has already been made redundant. Is that a sentence? Far long ago, especially once we got this type of information. On top of this as well, Goldman Sachs has also mentioned many times before, they're also going to be opening their own crypto trading platform. This is also yet again another institution who has announced, first of all, for those who don't know, had never heard of Goldman Sachs, as always I say, please do your own research. Google them. However you get your information, Google Goldman Sachs and the amount of money that they have and the sway that they have in the financial world. They are almost probably as big as the New York Stock Exchange / the NASDAQ. Like, they are massive. And when I hear information, this is why I think 2018 has been a learning experience for all of us. When I hear information that Goldman Sachs, New York Stock Exchange, and I'm not even done, like there's still more in this. When I hear that they're making a Bitcoin trading desk, trading operation, regardless of what you want to call it. I told you guys before, also in other videos, pay attention to where these articles are posted, where these things are coming from. When you have articles on New York Times or on Forbes or on Bloomberg, they're specifically catered or catering to a certain type of clientele. They go for the people who they know who are reading it, and typically the New York Times is like I want to say like a pinky in the air type of institution. They know that they go for people who read them tend to have a high net worth. I will kind of say it that way. It leads me to believe that Bitcoin is not only going to do well, but I think it's going to absolutely dominate every single part of finance going forward. I know a lot of people may disagree with me. I know a lot of people don't necessarily believe in the Bitcoin life, if one can kind of say it that way, or in the unobstructed, powerful Bitcoin going into the future, simply because we have a lot of other altcoins. I believe, me personally, in other altcoins as well. If you have watched my other videos, I love altcoins. There are at least 15 other altcoins. I'm not going to say them in this video because this is a Bitcoin video, that I believe are definitely going to make it. But when you have a situation where people are calling Bitcoin out by name, and they're talking about that Bitcoin could be the first worldwide currency, this should perk up a couple of ears. And this is, I guess, also me making this video, I guess could be seen as a way to kind of not bring back confidence in cryptocurrency. It's more like you shouldn't have lost any confidence. So many people have been just paying attention to like prices. It's just how high is Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin going so low? How much money can I make from this? I don't think people are understanding the actual fundamentals of what cryptocurrencies, and if you smash it all into the middle, what Bitcoin is. We have something for the first time in the history of ever, and I mean ever, EVER, of humanity, where we are able to send data quickly between each other. Like, you can open your phone and you can video chat with someone on the other side of the world in about 3.5 seconds, the 3.5 being the time that it's going to take for them to look at their phone, see if they actually want to talk to you, and unlock their phone to actually talk to you. We can now send money and value at the same exact speed, regardless of how slow Bitcoin might be at the moment. We know that other implementations and other layers are going to be built on top of Bitcoin, especially we have the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network right now, which also allows us to send payments instantaneously. This is obviously going to only be built along further in 2019 as well. When we have a situation like that, and we have so many other players in finance who are launching things specifically around cryptocurrencies and, for the sake of argument, around Bitcoin, you have to understand that this market is going to go somewhere. Can Bitcoin go to zero? Absolutely. In the case that someone unplugs the gigantic plug that's in the wall and we all lose internet at the exact same time, is Bitcoin going to go to zero? In my humble YouTuber opinion, probably not a chance on this green earth. I told you guys many times before, if Bitcoin ends up going around $100, people are going to empty their bank accounts trying to buy as much of it as possible. The fact that the path is so clear to me, I try to make it clearer, or as clear for other people who are maybe losing hope, maybe don't really see the silver lining at the end of it. I mean, For those who aren't looking at the screen right now, this is an article from Fortune.com. Once again, Fortune. Pay attention to who these articles are geared towards. These things aren't geared towards normal everyday workers, and this is why I'm completely adamant. This is the reason why I made this channel, is because I try to make sure that everyday normal people understand the money that's behind this situation and behind everything that's happening. Very rich institutions, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, New York Stock Exchange, and the NASDAQ, they control finance around the world. These people are not getting into cryptocurrencies. Fidelity is not mining Bitcoin and Ethereum because they think it's cool, because they want to show their kids, that they own 3 machines where they're mining cryptocurrencies. They're mining and they're doing all of these things, and they're accumulating cryptocurrencies under our noses because they know that while prices have been capitulating, lowering, smashing down, bloodbathing, whatever you kind of want to say, they know that there's so much more money that they're going to be able to make in this space. And I find it quite interesting, the fact that this is the news that we get. We as normal everyday people, we more or less get the runoff of what's happening in the financial world. Like, we know that they're starting this, that they're going to be doing this, that they're opening this, and we know that Starbucks is there, and we know that Microsoft is there, and we know that this is going to be there, and they're opening up a cryptocurrency trading platform. Wow, that's great. Can you imagine what's happening behind closed doors? Can you imagine what's happening in the talks between Fidelity and Goldman Sachs, and I'm sure Bank of America and the New York Stock Exchange and ICE and NASDAQ, about exactly how much Bitcoin they think they need? First of all, we've had conversations before about the $1 trillion market. It's estimated that soon, one day in the future, cryptocurrencies as the entire market is going to be worth over $1 trillion. And then we have a lot of estimates floating around now that at one point Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, is going to be worth over $1 trillion as well. It's believed that the first trillionaires that we are going to have on this planet are going to be because of cryptocurrencies. Can you imagine, or can you think why so many institutions will be desperately trying to get into cryptocurrencies as the prices are going back down, and when we have all the speculation and rumors and analysts talking about that eventually cryptocurrencies are going to be worth a couple $1 trillion as a market as a whole? Doesn't it seem kind of weird that they would be getting into a space as prices are falling down when people are talking about them potentially becoming trillionaires? We already know that the richest people in the world, and I've told you guys this before, not to burst your crypto bubble or any kind of bubble out there, the richest people in the world are probably going to remain the richest people in the world. And this is why I think it's incredibly important for normal people to understand what cryptocurrencies are and the people who are actually getting into the cryptocurrency space. It's imperative that you pay attention, even if you don't put a dime, a cent, a penny, a euro, a yen into the cryptocurrency space. At least be aware of what's happening and what is taking shape. These institutions are not getting into cryptocurrency so that they can become poor. No major financial institution gets into gold, silver, copper, anything, nothing else on this planet. They don't buy tech companies. They don't buy other this. They don't, buy up 10% of this stock or what have you, because they expect to lose money. Fidelity is not mining Bitcoin and Ethereum because they heard about it on Fortune and they were like, yeah, let's devote a couple of our computers to that. It sounds kind of fun. These people are betting on Bitcoin, specifically for this video, becoming massive, and for them to remain on their golden thrones. I don't know where rich people sit on, but I assume they all have a golden throne, something sitting there. On the other side, not even on the other side, continuing the same exact path we were going down, Switzerland. This happened a couple days ago, and we had proper clarification. This says November. We had proper clarification a couple days ago that this was actually officially going to launch. We now know that Switzerland's SIX exchange, the second largest stock exchange in Switzerland, is going to launch their own Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum exchange traded product. And I think we also had news a couple of days ago as well that they're going to be launching their own cryptocurrency exchange. The second largest stock exchange in Switzerland is also going to be launching their own thing. Why in the world would they be doing that? That's kind of weird, right? On top of this as well, the Stuttgart exchange in Germany, this is also, I believe, the second largest stock exchange in Germany, and I think it's the 8th largest in Europe, also announced a couple of days ago that they're also going to be launching the same exact thing that the NASDAQ is launching, the New York Stock Exchange is launching. One can only assume that Goldman Sachs is also going to be launching another cryptocurrency trading platform. We have no actual news as to exactly the specific coins that they're going to be adding or launching or having on the platform when they first flick the switch and activate it. We can assume Bitcoin is at least probably more than likely, I'm going to say 99.9% probably going to be one of the first coins that they're going to be listing. The switching the discussion 2 degrees to the side of liquidity. For those who don't know what liquidity means, the simplest form is like the amount of money that's flowing through the market, the ease at which you can put money inside of the market, but also, even more important, be able to take it out and not crash the price, i.e. we need a large amount of liquidity. If someone is selling $100 million worth of Bitcoin, you need a huge amount of liquidity for that sale going through to not crash the price of Bitcoin. The amount of liquidity that we are going to have, and this is, once again, my opinion, me, myself, M-Y-M-I-E-N-N-E, mine, me, my opinion. The fact that people are betting against Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for 2019, I think is, for lack of a better word, hilarious. That's the nice word that I could say. The fact that people think that crypto isn't going to move up in price. Once again, these are all my predictions. I don't know the future. The internet might crash tomorrow. We might, the whole world might be into chaos tomorrow. The fact that there are people out there who think that the second largest stock exchange in Germany, the Swiss Stock Exchange, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, New York Stock Exchange, ICE, and NASDAQ launching cryptocurrency trading platforms, and more specifically just for Bitcoin, that Bitcoin's price would go down, is insane to me. Like, I can't logically understand how people would think that that is going to be a thing. The liquidity that we had in the market at the end of 2017 was already immense. Bitcoin got to, it was like $19,960, somewhere floating around that number, depending on which cryptocurrency exchange we're looking at. The amount of liquidity that we had in the Bitcoin market was immense. It was spectacular. The reason that we had that crash is because everyone realized at the exact same time, maybe prices got a bit too hot, and therefore this is when kind of had that big sell-off. Imagine what happens when, my opinion, when prices end up going really high and we have people who are afraid and they're like, I need to cash my money out, but the market doesn't drop down because we have a situation, because crypto is worldwide, where many other cryptocurrency exchanges around the world, and that's including these major platforms, are going to have other people who are like, I'm not pulling out of the market. And these people end up pulling out of the market as prices continue to go up, because it's then a worldwide thing. The way that crypto worked at the end of 2017, it was not major. It was crypto got to those prices with everyday normal people. Once again, the Wall Street Journal, for those who aren't looking at the screen, go away. There we go. It says, Fidelity says it will trade Bitcoin for hedge funds. For those who don't know what a hedge, you've probably heard the word hedge funds before. It's pretty much like a fund for very rich people. Like, if you want to join into a hedge fund, you typically, sometimes, on the lower end, you maybe need around $5 million to be able to buy into the fund. These are typically professionally, air quotes, in the air, managed. And these are the people, when you hear, I'm pretty sure you've all, if you haven't picked up a newspaper, you've scrolled by something on the internet that said, hedge fund manager makes $3 billion this year. This hedge fund manager got paid an additional $500 million at the end of the year because of so-and-so. These are the people who make the big money. If Fidelity is going to be trading Bitcoin for hedge fund managers and it costs several million to be able to buy into a hedge fund, this is going to be massive money that we're going to have flowing through the marketplace. One can only assume that at this point you probably get it. You're probably looking through a piece of glass that's very thin, and you see me holding up signs telling you what is potentially, no one knows the future. I can't tell you when or if Bitcoin is ever going to go back up. But one has to assume, from a logical standpoint, that Bitcoin is probably going to do well as we go further into the future. On the side of this as well, the information that we've had from, for those who don't know, Once again, the SEC, for those who are new here, stands for the Securities and Exchange Commission. These are the people within the United States who control a large amount of finance. Anything that is considered a security, this S right here, pretty much falls under the category of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, so what have you, so on and so forth. If you've ever owned an Apple stock or something like that, you own a security, and it is regulated by the SEC. People have been trying to get a Bitcoin exchange traded fund or an ETF through for the last 4-5 years now at this point. And the news is, even though it's not as important, a lot of people think that this could be the catalyst for the next bull run in 2019. Pretty much, yeah, I mean, people think that the SEC will say yes to this next year, obviously, February 2019. I myself personally, a 5-year no streak from the SEC is to me pretty indicative of where the future is heading. I think the Bitcoin ETF should never be mentioned again. I think any news about it, unless they say yes, probably shouldn't be in anyone's headlines. The amount of money that we're going to have flowing into the cryptocurrency space, in my opinion, in 2019, just based off of the other news that I was reading, is going to be astronomically wonderful. Bitcoin ETF would definitely help in some capacity. You know, I don't think it'll do that much harm if we have this is supposed to be a physically settled Bitcoin ETF, i.e. this is going to be what's it called? Where people aren't pretty much trading paper or numbers back and forth on a screen. They're going to be actually swapping back and forth between Bitcoin physically at the actual coin on the blockchain during a 24-hour period. This is the news that we've had. Do I think it's important? Not really. Do many other people think it's important? Yes. Will it happen? No one knows. We've had 5 years of rejections. I would not look forward to this. I think in the grand scheme of things, or even just the 2019 scheme of things, if they say no, we should be totally fine with all the other stuff that I was just reading through. To get to some of the, I guess, the juicier parts of the conversation, people who I guess maybe think like me are reading not even between the lines, just looking at the articles, looking at the actual news, looking at the people on television who are talking about the cryptocurrency space. 2018 is believed to have been or is currently the year where infrastructure has been built up, where the prices were lowering, prices were crashing. I hate the term when people like there's blood in the streets. Use whatever you want to describe what's happening in the cryptocurrency space. This has been a year where prices have been going down, and I've mentioned before in other videos when we were talking a bit about how this year has been. It is believed, or there's a general sentiment, that prices needed to move down during 2018 in order for us to be able to go back up in 2019. The idea is that the longer that prices stay down in 2018, you have to have these periods of a correction. I'm pretty sure you've heard that before, where prices are correcting to how much the things are actually worth, or their true value worth. If we had a Bitcoin price of 180,000 and Bitcoin had 3,000 people on the network swapping Bitcoin back and forth, probably a bit overvalued. The price that we got to last year apparently was a bit too much, and now we are going through the process and the phase of where prices are correcting. But on the flip side of this, there's a huge amount of consensus amongst people all around the world, depending on who you ask, where you look, where you get your information from, who you are listening to on the telly, comes down to that 2019 is going to be an absolutely historic year, not only for the cryptocurrency space, but for Bitcoin. People are expecting Bitcoin's dominance, in particular, in the cryptocurrency market to completely lose its mind. At the moment, I don't have the charts open, obviously. I think Bitcoin's dominance is around 55% of the entirety of the cryptocurrency market. I've seen estimates that they assume, people think, that Bitcoin could end up hitting a dominance level of anywhere from 65, 70 to maybe 80% of the entirety of the market. I may not agree with a lot of the numbers that I see out there, but I could see how they're getting to these numbers from the information that we also had before about what's going to be happening. Keep in mind, all of this stuff that I was talking about up here is happening within the first 3 months of 2019. This is why we're getting, if you have maybe seen around, a lot of speculation that Bitcoin is obviously, or potentially, going to go up in the next couple of weeks, or at the beginning of 2019, as this is like everyone is going to be kind of twiddling their thumbs, looking at the screen, waiting desperately to see what's happening with the prices, because as we get closer to these things launching, logically, prices should maybe go up in anticipation. And also when we have proper clarification, or we get the charts and we see that there's hundreds of millions, if not potentially billions, with a B, of dollars going through these platforms over here, prices should then be ticking higher up. 2018 was a year where we heard a lot of people talking about that they thought Bitcoin was going to go up to here, Bitcoin was going to go up to there. The general consensus seems to be amongst financial experts around the world that Bitcoin is going to have a new all-time high. The numbers kind of range from, different. No one can give you an approximate number of what they think that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are going to end up at, especially during the next year. To kind of touch on this as well, I should have had this somewhere over here. There's a company called Grayscale. We had news about this a couple of days ago from the time of me making this video, that over the last year, they've actually been accumulating Bitcoin specifically as prices have been going down. This is actually the holdings that they have. They now own or control, depending on how you want to look at it, over 1% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin. And I mentioned this in another video. I'm not going to beat the dead horse. This tells me Bitcoin has an incredibly bright future. If Grayscale has 1% of all the Bitcoin, one can only assume that the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, the German Stock Exchange, the Swiss Stock Exchange, and anyone else who's in the game that we just don't know about, they probably also own 1%, if not more, of the circulating supply of Bitcoin. Simply because Grayscale, I believe, is a crypto investment fund. And you can kind of see that a major institution who's been around for 150 years probably, maybe, has enough money, enough backing behind them from a lot of heavy-handed investors who are probably able to push their money across the table and therefore end up getting another 1% of the circulating supply. The future prospects that I see for Bitcoin are, in my view, my personal opinion, if we do end up hitting ridiculous numbers like we've been seeing floating around, I think Bitcoin is going to make a lot of people very rich. That is not me telling you to buy into the market. That is not me telling you to FOMO into it. That is not me telling you that you should buy right now. The fact is that I think in 2019, we're going to see something like we've never really seen before. And now, when we see numbers, for those who aren't looking at the screen once again, it says there's a Fundstrat analyst believes that Bitcoin's price is going to hit $64,000 US in 2019. When we've had stuff like this before and we've had other price predictions, they've typically been wrong, and they've been wrong on the lower end. I.e., if you actually take a couple of seconds and try and see price predictions for what people thought Bitcoin would end at in 2017, people thought that Bitcoin would max out at 5,000. There were a couple of articles where people thought that Bitcoin would never hit 10,000 in 2017. They said, no, that's a bit too much. Bitcoin started out at 990. I think 10,000 is a relatively healthy number for us to hit. So and so and so. And by the time we hit 20,000, you get to the conclusion that we started out the year at 990. The estimates were 5,000 for like a max. This is as high as it's going to go. And we hit 4 times that. I cannot, obviously, I desperately wish I could. I wish I had a crystal ball or some type of a futuristic time machine where I could go and tell everyone the exact price that things are going to be. I don't have that. My opinion is this is probably a low-level number. This is 3 times what we hit alone with normal retail investors in 2017. The amount of infrastructure that's been built up across the entirety of this year, there hasn't been one month that was boring in crypto. Prices may have been dramatically going down, but there hasn't been one moment or one day where we didn't have something completely, some type of very good integration news, the liquidity platforms, the fiat pairings, the other crypto to crypto pairings, news about who's launching what, who's doing this, and who's going to start this, and who's doing so and so. If we only hit, in my opinion, 3 times the price of where we were before, I think that would actually be a little weird. I don't know if it has it on this one. Right. The estimates that we have floating around right now for 2019, this one says by 2020, so one can only assume it means the very last day of 2019. The other ends that I see prices for, and that I agree a bit with more, range anywhere from, my opinion, from over 100,000 in 2019 to potentially around $250,000 by the end of 2019. And I know that sounds completely insane. I know a lot of you are probably sucked your teeth. A lot of you are folding your arms. Once again, this is a prediction. Predictions are sometimes wrong. I don't have, once again, the time machine. I am not a professional financial advisor, so I cannot give you the exact numbers. The way that things are shaping up, the amount of people who we have, I mean, just look. It's sitting right in front of everyone's faces, regardless of how low in 2018 right now that Bitcoin's price may continue to go. The information is there. How do I say this? Everything that we need to kind of see exactly where the industry is going to go is there. If we have the situation that we have right now where the New York Stock Exchange is launching Bakkt in 2019, and we only have two companies, Starbucks and Microsoft, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they probably have at least 10 other companies who have signed up with the New York Stock Exchange to be a part of this initiative. If we end up hearing some very major names, if we end up hearing Amazon, Apple, Google on their Play Store, any other type of major names who are going to be getting into this, especially when we have a situation, if we have something where people start trading, let's say February 2019, people start trading on these platforms and Bitcoin's price goes up and these people start making, let's say we hear somewhere in the news, some company is like, I made 50 million in 6 weeks because prices went up. This is going to cause a huge amount of people to completely tumble into the market. For some reason, there's something where people don't buy in when prices are cheap. That is not me telling you to buy into the market. People don't buy in when the prices are cheap. They tend to buy in. This is why we had that huge, crazy thing last year when prices hit 10,000. This is when everybody started jumping into the market. And when news became overwhelmingly positive on television shows where people are talking about how great the market is, how much money there is to be made in it, this is why we have that. I guess to end it off, I see extremely, I think the cryptocurrency market is going to surprise a lot of people next year. I think things are going to, and I think things are going to get out of hand. I think we're going to have another situation where things look like they're getting too hot, but I think it'll be exactly where crypto and Bitcoin are supposed to be. I think this has been a very long 10-year buildup of excitement for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a whole. And I think that 2019, in my opinion, from all the information that we've had, like none of the information that we've had about Bitcoin throughout 2018 has been negative, except for the forks that we've had of forks, or simply because the news about Bitcoin being too slow. But we know that can be remedied over the next at least 6 to 18 month period if we have the continued same growth of the Lightning Network. I think there are very major things coming. I'm very excited to be part of this space. I think there are a lot of people who are definitely missing out. As always, if you think that crypto is too risky, by all means, don't put a dime, don't put a cent. But I think you would be doing yourself an injustice if you didn't at least explore a bit more into the cryptocurrency space, just to see exactly what it is, exactly what's happening in the space. A lot of people think that cryptocurrencies, not even just Bitcoin, are a bit of a farce, that the energy behind it is kind of not faked, but it's more like hype. A lot of people don't get the infrastructure that's actually being built around this. I'm sure a lot of people, maybe even watching this right now, had no idea that all of these institutions and companies were getting into the space. If you have ever been into traditional finance like I was before I got into cryptocurrencies, you know that these are behemoths. These are massive entities who are talking about getting into something that's 10 years old. I think, in my opinion, the future is incredibly bright. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you once again for watching and or listening. I do appreciate all of your support. Please, as always, make sure to do your own research. I can only give you the information that I have or that I find. It is imperative that you know exactly what you have your money into. And yeah, thank you once again, and I'll talk to you all soon. See you.